Have you ever really thought about that thrill, archaeological discovery? It's not always about, finding these huge lost cities or grand pyramids. Sometimes the biggest secrets, the really profound stuff about human history, it's hidden in the smallest places, really unexpected. And today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that kind of thing. We're looking at a 4,000-year-old story. It's about a practice in Southeast Asia, betel nut chewing, that was super widespread, but often, well, kind of invisible in the record. So our goal today, our mission if you like, is to unpack how researchers use these tiny, tiny clues from ancient teeth and how that revealed some really surprising things about daily life, about culture, thousands of years ago. We're going to give you a shortcut, basically, to getting up to speed on this fascinating discovery and show you how this new science, it literally made the invisible visible. So let's start with what we kind of thought we knew. The usual understanding about betel nut. It's ancient in Southeast Asia, right? And it normally leaves that pretty obvious sign, the dark reddish-brown, sometimes black-stained teeth.
Plus, archaeologists have, sometimes found the actual ancient plant remains too.
That's right. That's the traditional picture. But here's where it gets interesting. Even when you don't find those things, no stained teeth, no plant bits, well, it doesn't automatically mean people weren't chewing betel nuts.
Ah, okay.
So that leads to a really important question. How do you find evidence for something when there's just no visible trace?
Exactly. And this is where the story gets really compelling, I think. Because this new study, they actually found direct proof of betel nut chewing on teeth that look completely normal. No stains at all. So, I mean, how did they do that? What was the secret?
Well, the secret was, maybe surprisingly, hiding in dental plaque. Or the term scientists use is dental calculus.
Like the stuff the dentist scrapes off.
Pretty much, yeah, but ancient hardened plaque. And it acts like this miniature time capsule. It's amazing, really. It preserves chemical signatures of plants people consumed, potentially for millennia. That's actually what allowed Dr. Shannon Tushingham, one of the study's senior authors, to say they developed a way to make the invisible visible, revealing behaviors and practices that have been lost to time for 4,000 years.
Wow. So ancient tooth gunk becomes a historical record. That's incredible. Okay, but maybe step back for a second. For anyone listening who isn't familiar, what exactly is betel nut?
Good question. So it's a seed of the areca palm tree, and people typically chew it as what's called a quid.
A quid?
Yeah, like a little package. It's usually the seed wrapped in a leaf from a different plant, the Piper betel vine. And often they add other things in there too, like limestone paste is a very common one.
Limestone paste.
Yeah.
Okay. And what does chewing this quid, what effect does it have?
Right. So the betel nut itself contains compounds, the main one being arecoline. These are mild stimulants. They work on the nervous system in a way that's called parasympathomimetic. Users often report feeling more alert, maybe a bit more energy, sometimes euphoria, or even relaxation. And that limestone paste you mentioned, it's actually crucial. It creates an alkaline environment in your mouth. And that alkaline condition helps to release and convert those psychoactive compounds, making them, well, more available to the body.
Ah, so the additives aren't just flavor, they actually change the chemistry.
Exactly. But it's really important to understand this isn't just about getting a buzz.
Right.
Betel nut is so deeply woven into the social fabric, the cultural traditions all across Southeast Asia.
Okay, so tell us more about that. What kind of cultural weight does it carry? It sounds like it's much more than just a simple stimulant.
Oh, absolutely. It goes way beyond that. It's used in religious ceremonies, in social gatherings, traditional medicine. We know from ethnographic interviews, for example, with people in Thailand, that there are beliefs connecting betel nut chewing, especially the tooth staining, to preventing decay or cleansing the gums. Some even believe it helps heal injuries, like from stepping on a nail or an animal attack.
Wow.
It holds sacred status in certain rituals, things like Yukru, Thalthnak Si, Sueb Jata. It's often given as an offering to guardian spirits. And the tooth staining itself, beyond any perceived health benefits, could also just be body ornamentation. Or part of rites of passage, coming of age, marriage ceremonies. It really is so much more than just a drug in the way we might think of it today. It's integral to culture.
That context is so important. Thanks. Okay, so let's get back to this specific discovery. Where did it actually happen? Which archaeological site?
Right. This takes us to a place called Nong Ratchawat. It's in central Thailand. It's a Bronze Age site. So we're talking roughly 4,000 to 3,000 years ago. And archaeologists have been working there since 2003, and they've unearthed, get this, 156 human burials.
156. That's a lot of individuals for one site,
Mhm.
a really significant population sample.
So what did the research team focus on for this particular study? Did they test everyone?
No, not everyone. For this study, the team, which was led by Dr. Pio at Munkam, an international team, they carefully collected 36 dental calculus samples. These came from just 6 different individuals buried at Nong Ratchawat. And it's really key to remember, like we said before, that even though the site had been studied extensively, they hadn't found any of the traditional signs of betel nut use.
Yeah.
No stained teeth, no plant fragments, nothing visible.
Right, it was archaeologically invisible before this. And then
Yeah.
the big moment, what was the core finding? The core finding, yeah. It came down to 3 specific samples. All 3 came from a single molar tooth belonging to one individual they designated this person burial 11. And those 3 samples contained clear, undeniable traces of arecoline and also arecaidine. These are the key chemical markers for betel nut.
Just from that one person, burial 11.
Just from burial 11 out of the 6 they tested initially. And the significance is, well, it's huge. This represents the earliest direct biomolecular evidence for betel nut use anywhere in mainland Southeast Asia. It pushes the confirmed date for this practice back by at least 1,000 years compared to what previous biomolecular studies had shown.
1,000 years, just like that, based on analyzing ancient plaque. That's an incredible leap. But how exactly did they find these compounds? You said they were invisible. What was the technique?
The technique is called liquid chromatography mass spectrometry. LCMS for short.
Okay.
It's a really powerful analytical chemistry method. The researchers essentially developed a very robust and sensitive way to use LCMS to detect these tiny, trace amounts of chemical residues preserved in that dental calculus.
So it wasn't just a matter of sticking the plaque into a machine then. Sounds complex.
Oh, definitely more involved than that. And they were very rigorous about it. To make absolutely sure their method worked and that they could correctly identify the compounds, they actually made their own experimental quids right there in the lab.
They made their own betel nut quids. Seriously.
They did. Dr. Mooncam apparently described it as a fun and interesting process. They used all the typical ingredients: dried betel nut, the pink limestone paste, piper betel leaves. Sometimes they added other things found in traditional recipes like bark from Senegalia, catechu, even tobacco. And get this, they even ground the ingredients using human saliva to mimic the actual chewing process as closely as possible.
Wow, that's dedication to authenticity. Very hands-on science.
It really is. And it was crucial for validation. It helped them understand exactly what chemical signatures to look for and how those signatures might change over time.
And I imagine analyzing molecules that are thousands of years old must have its own challenges, right? Degradation and things.
Absolutely. That rigorous experimental work was key because the ancient molecules did show slightly different patterns when analyzed what they call fragmentation patterns compared to the fresh modern samples. That's due to millennia of degradation.
Okay.
So being able to recognize those degraded signatures was vital. And what's also fascinating is the statistical analysis they did. It showed that the overall chemical profile found in Burial 11's calculus was distinct. It was different from the profiles of the other 5 individuals they tested.
Suggesting maybe she consumed a unique mix of substances.
Exactly. Or perhaps just consumed betel nut when the others didn't, or consumed it differently. It points to individual variation within that community.
Okay, so let's unpack what this all means. We have Burial 11, confirmed betel nut user, but her teeth weren't stained. That lack of staining itself raises questions, doesn't it?
It really does. There could be several reasons. Maybe she chewed differently, less frequently, or for shorter periods than people whose teeth do get heavily stained. Maybe there were ancient teeth cleaning practices we don't know about. Or it could simply be something about how her body decomposed after death, what archaeologists call taphonomy. The environment might have affected the staining or preservation.
And what do we know about Burial 11 herself? Who was she?
Well, the bioarchaeological analysis suggests she was likely female and probably between 25 and 35 years old when she died. Her burial itself had some broken pottery, which was pretty common at Nong Ratchawat, but she also had some grave goods that were a bit less common, things like stone beads and some quite sophisticated clay vessels.
So maybe slightly different, but not necessarily indicating she was high status?
Exactly. It suggests some individual variation, perhaps in her personal practices or maybe her burial treatment, but probably not a sign of vastly elevated social rank compared to others at the site.
And you mentioned potential gender dynamics earlier. How does this discovery connect to that?
Yeah, it's an interesting angle. While the historical picture for betel chewing and gender isn't always crystal clear, Recent ethnographic work, again interviewing people in rural Thai communities today, suggests that women are now the predominant chewers of betel nut, whereas men in those same communities often prefer tobacco. And tobacco, remember, is a much later introduction to Southeast Asia, only arriving around the 16th century.
So finding a likely female from 4,000 years ago using betel nut fits potentially with a long-term pattern, or at least doesn't contradict modern observations.
It could hint at that, yes. But more broadly, I think what this research really does is challenge how we sometimes view traditional plant use. There is a tendency in modern contexts to sometimes dismiss practices like betel chewing as just drug use, but this kind of deep historical evidence underlines the profound cultural heritage, the social and ceremonial roles these plants played. These roles were so important that the practice persisted, even when governments later introduced modernization policies trying to discourage it, especially in cities.
Right, it puts it in a much richer context.
And fundamentally, it shows the power of this biomolecular approach using dental calculus. It opens a window onto ancient behaviors that leave literally no other trace in the archaeological record.
Things we would have completely missed otherwise.
Completely missed. And it's less invasive than some older methods of analysis, too, which is also a plus for preserving remains.
So wrapping this up then, this deep dive into a 4,000-year-old chewing habit really shows how cutting-edge science can, well, breathe life into the past. It turns something as seemingly mundane as dental plaque into this incredibly rich record of human culture, health, maybe even social interactions. It's just a powerful reminder, isn't it, that history is often written in the tiniest details.
It really is. And what's fascinating here, and maybe a little mind-boggling, is that this is likely just the beginning for this site. Remember, they've unearthed 156 burials at Nong Ratchawat. This study looked at calculus from only 6 individuals.
So much more potential data sitting right there.
Exactly. The potential for future discoveries just at this one site is immense. Which really leads to a final thought, perhaps, for you listening. What other hidden human behaviors, what other ancient cultural practices from our deep past might still be out there, waiting silently, lurking in the most unexpected places, like inside ancient teeth, just waiting for the right scientific key, the next breakthrough to unlock their stories?